Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, we are dismantling a massive, high-stakes myth that has been keeping parents awake from New York City to Los Angeles. It is the preschool arms race. You know what I'm talking about. That crushing pressure to have your 3-year-old reciting the alphabet in 2 languages, counting to 100 before they can tie their shoes, and using flashcards over breakfast. But here is the cold, hard truth that might shock you. Your toddler's ability to memorize the ABCs at age 2 is almost zero predictor of their long-term intelligence or success. In fact, research from places like Harvard and Stanford suggests that by pushing academics too early, we might actually be slowing them down. Today, we are going to look at the 3 specific foundations that actually build a brilliant mind. We're talking about the neuroscience of the smart brain and why the most intellectual thing your child can do today might just be jumping in a puddle. Most parents in the U.S. today are caught in a trap. Whether you're navigating the competitive private school scene in Chicago or just scrolling through curated educational feeds on Instagram, the message is the same: more, earlier, faster. We've been told that a child's brain is like an empty vessel that needs to be filled with facts as quickly as possible. We think that if they aren't learning something measurable, something we can check off a list, then they are falling behind. But this is fundamentally wrong. When we drill a child on 1, 2, 3s before they are ready, we are building a house on sand. We are focusing on the decorations of the house, the paint, the shutters, while the foundation is literally cracking underneath. Let's talk about why this happens. When a child is forced into sit still and listen learning too early, their brain often enters a state of mild stress. Instead of the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, lighting up with curiosity, the amygdala, the fear center, takes over. They learn to perform for your approval rather than learning because they are genuinely curious. This creates what psychologists call fragile perfects. Kids who look smart on paper at age 5 but hit a massive wall of burnout and anxiety by age 10 because they never developed the internal engines of intelligence. Meanwhile, the kids who spent their early years building forts and having deep conversations with their parents, they are the ones who end up leading the pack. This brings us to our first pillar, emotional safety, or the soil. Think of your child's brain like a high-end computer. No matter how powerful the processor is, if the cooling system fails and the machine overheats, it crashes. In a child, that cooling system is emotional safety. Neuroscience shows us that the brain literally cannot transition into learning mode unless the nervous system feels 100% safe. This isn't just about being nice, it's about a physiological state. There was a landmark study out of the University of Minnesota that followed children for 30 years. They found that the single best predictor of academic success in high school wasn't early IQ scores. It was the quality of sensitive caregiving the child received in the first 3 years of life. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine a little boy named Leo in a high-rise apartment in Manhattan. His parents are brilliant, and they filled his room with every STEM toy imaginable. But they are stressed. They are always checking their phones, and when Leo gets frustrated with a puzzle, they say, "Come on, Leo, you know this one, focus." Leo's brain registers that frustration as a threat. His heart rate goes up. His prefrontal cortex, where logic lives, shuts down. Now, compare him to Maya in a suburb of Atlanta. Her parents don't have fancy toys, but when she cries or gets frustrated, they drop everything, look her in the eyes and say, "That's really hard, isn't it? I'm right here." Maya's brain stays online. Because she feels safe to fail, she actually learns the logic of the puzzle 5 times faster than Leo. Emotional safety is the soil that allows the seed of intelligence to grow. Without it, the seed just withers. The second foundation is responsive connection, or the roots. At the Harvard Center on the Developing Child, they call this serve and return. It's like a game of tennis between a parent and a child. The child serves by making a sound, pointing at a bird, or asking a question, and the parent returns by acknowledging and expanding on that interest. This simple back and forth is the literal wiring of the brain. Every time you respond to your child's curiosity, you are strengthening the neural pathways that govern language, logic, and social intelligence. It's not about teaching them what to think, It's about teaching them how to engage with the world. Let's look at a case study. Imagine you're at a grocery store in Chicago. Parent A is pushing the cart, showing their toddler flashcards of A is for apple. The kid is bored, looking at the lobsters in the tank. Parent B doesn't have flashcards. They see the child looking at the lobsters and say, "Oh, you see those big claws? They're blue. Why do you think he's waving his claw?" The child babbles back, and the parent says, "Yeah, maybe he's saying hello to the fish." In that 60-second interaction, Parent B has done more for that child's IQ than 1,000 flashcards. They've practiced observation, hypothesis making, and linguistic rhythm. That is serve and return in action. It builds a brain that is hungry for information because it knows that the world is a place where its questions get answered. The third and perhaps most controversial foundation in our hustle culture is guided play, or the sunlight. Somewhere along the way, we started treating play like it was a break from learning. Science says play is the learning. When a child is building a tower out of blocks and it falls over, they are learning physics, spatial reasoning, and resilience. When they are playing house, they are practicing executive function, the ability to hold a plan in their mind and follow through. A study published in the journal Pediatrics found that play is essential to reaching developmental milestones. When we replace play with drills, we are essentially cutting off the sunlight and wondering why the plant isn't growing. I remember a story about a preschool in Seattle that decided to ditch all formal curriculum. No letters, no numbers, just big buckets of water, mud, and wooden planks. The Type A parents were terrified. They thought their kids would be behind when they got to kindergarten. But a year later, these kids were testing in the 90th percentile for problem solving and social-emotional regulation. Why? Because when you have to figure out how to bridge a river of mud with a plank of wood, you are using 10 times more brain power than when you are coloring in a letter B. You are practicing divergent thinking, the ability to find multiple solutions to a single problem. That is the hallmark of true genius. So, how do we actually implement this without feeling like we're doing nothing? I want to introduce a framework I call the C.O.R.E method. It stands for calm, observe, respond, and engage. This is your roadmap to building a smart child from the ground up. Instead of a curriculum, think of this as a mode of being. It's a way to ensure you are hitting those 3 foundations every single day, whether you're in a high-rise in LA or a farmhouse in Kansas. Step 1 is calm. This is the soil. Before you try to teach your child anything, check your own nervous system. If you are stressed about their future, they will feel it. Your first job is to be their anchor. When they have a meltdown because they can't get their sock on, don't see it as a discipline problem. See it as a safety problem. Their brain has overheated. Your goal is to bring them back to cool. Once they are calm, their brain is open for business. Step 2 is observe. This is where the roots start. Stop trying to lead the lesson. Instead, watch your child for 5 minutes. What are they actually interested in? Are they obsessed with the way the light hits the floor? Are they trying to line up their cars by color? Most parents miss these serves because they are too busy trying to get the child to do something else. Observation is the highest form of respect you can show a developing mind. Step 3 is respond. This is the return in serve and return. Whatever they are observing, join them in it. If they are looking at the light on the floor, don't say, "That's nice, now let's count." Say, "Whoa, look at that bright spot. It's a square. If I put my hand there, does it disappear?" You are validating their curiosity. You are telling their brain, your interests have value. This creates a massive surge of dopamine, which acts like neural glue for whatever they learn next. Step 4 is engage. This is the sunlight. This is where you facilitate guided play. You aren't the director, you're the stage manager. If they are interested in those cars, Maybe you bring over a piece of cardboard and say, "I wonder if the blue car can go faster down this ramp than the red one." You've just introduced the scientific method. You haven't lectured. You've just engaged their natural drive to experiment. Let's look at a timeline for this. In week 1 and 2, your only goal is the soil. Focus entirely on emotional regulation. When your child gets upset, instead of a timeout, try a time in. Sit with them, build that safety. You'll notice that by day 14, their listening actually improves. Not because you've been stricter, but because their brain feels safer to cooperate. In months 2 and 3, you move into the roots. You'll find yourself having longer, more complex conversations. You might notice your 3-year-old using words you didn't even know they knew. That's because you've been returning their serves. By month 6, you'll see the sunlight effect. Your child will start playing independently for longer periods. They will become problem solvers. When a toy breaks, instead of crying, they'll start trying to fix it. This is the master level of early childhood development. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but my neighbor's kid is already reading and mine isn't. This is the troubleshooting phase. We have to address the fear of falling behind. If you feel that panic rising, remember the late bloomer effect. Many of the world's most brilliant minds, including Albert Einstein, were not early achievers in the traditional sense. They were deep thinkers. A child who spends their early years mastering the 3 foundations might not read at age 4, but when they do start reading at age 6, they will leapfrog over the kids who were drilled. Why? Because they have the executive function to focus, the emotional safety to persevere through hard words, and the curiosity to want to know what's in the book. If you find yourself losing your cool, maybe you've had a long day at work in downtown DC and your toddler is screaming, don't beat yourself up. Perfection is not the foundation of intelligence. Repair is. If you snap, go back later and say, "I'm sorry I yelled. I was feeling frustrated, but that wasn't your fault." You just taught them more about emotional intelligence in that 1 minute than a year of social skills classes could ever provide. You showed them how to be human. To wrap this up, remember that your child's brain is not a race to be won. It is a garden to be tended. If you provide the soil of emotional safety, the roots of responsive connection, and the sunlight of guided play, the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s will take care of themselves. They really will. You are building a mind that is resilient, creative, and capable of solving problems we can't even imagine yet. Stop the drills, put away the flashcards, go outside, find a bug, and ask your child, "Where do you think he's going?" That's where the magic happens. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. If this resonated with you, I want you to do one thing today. Spend 10 minutes in serve and return mode. No phones, no teaching goals, just follow your child's lead. Comment below with the word foundations if you're joining the movement to prioritize brains over benchmarks. I'll be in the comments answering your questions. And stay tuned for our next episode where we'll talk about the boredom paradox. Why doing nothing is the secret to high-level creativity. See you next time.